So we give Chuck Todd a hard time on this show. I'm sure he's a nice guy, and if he was dating my sister, I'd be okay with it. And if I had kids, he could be godfather to him if I was religious, whatever. But it doesn't change the fact that Chuck Todd never broke a story in his life. All the resources of NBC, and Chuck hasn't even accidentally stumbled into an act of journalism. All right, we're very hard on him. I'm critical of him, but he makes some millions of dollars. Don't worry about it. And by the way, he's as dumb as me, Chuck Todd. Because, in fact, a little dumber, because I actually finished college. That shows a little stick-to-itiveness that Chuck doesn't have. If you've ever watched one of his interviews, he doesn't stick to it. No. He's all about access journalism, Chuck Todd. And what is access journalism? It means you want to have famous, important people talk to you so you don't ever push them too hard. You don't ask impolite questions. So Chuck Todd was interviewing a campaign manager for Barack Obama, David Plouffe. And, well, just hang on to your hats at what is going to upset Chuck Todd in this clip. Now, let's remember, Chuck Todd he gave billions of dollars in free airtime to Donald Trump. He let him phone in, previously never done before. So desperate to give airtime to Donald Trump was Chuck Todd that he let him phone in to his frickin' news show. You know who else gets to phone in? No one! Anyway, so Chuck Todd is going to be talking to David Plouffe. Let's watch what upsets Chuck Todd. Where he decides to draw the line. So Chuck Todd decides.
I want to ask about the race in general. The last time you were on, you expressed concern that Hillary Clinton couldn't do well in places like Virginia and Colorado. Well, it's the first two states that essentially the campaign has pulled out of because they think they've put the campaign away. How did you miss that? I mean,
first of all, I always like to do this. Whenever I'm watching shows, I always try to guess how much their suits are worth. Chuck Todd, that suit, that's a $2,500 suit minimum.
I didn't know they made suits that expensive.
You could see, just by the way the lapels just lay, I shouldn't talk about this in the middle of this.
No, you're right. Great lapel lines.
You can just tell. And he needs to pull it down. He needs to sit on it a little bit more. He's getting this thing, which happens if you wear a suit coat on TV and you sit down, you got to be. It happens to me. I try to.
Well, it also gets ruffled when you have your head checked for head lice.
Like his is really bad. People need to be more aware of that. I always try to pull my suit coat down. Anyway, Chuck Todd, here you go.
Why did you misread those two states in particular? I'm just curious.
Well, those are two tough states. I think they were uniquely suited to Barack Obama. And I think so when we had that conversation, I think the assessment was that Donald Trump would try and do some things to appeal to the middle of the electorate, to appeal to suburban college-educated women. He's not. I mean, basically we have a psychopath running for president. It's the clinical definition, okay?
Wait a minute.
So he just called it, basically we have a psychopath running for president. And Chuck Todd, that is not going to go unchecked on his show. I mean, he'll let people come up and say tax cuts create jobs, and that Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. And
yeah, we're here to do the news, not the truth.
But that is where Chuck Todd draws the line. When you call a maniac or a psychopath, well, let's watch. Here we go.
He's not. I mean, basically we have a psychopath running for president. It's the clinical definition, okay?
Wait a minute. Hillary Clinton, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Do you really think diagnosing people on air, and I assume you don't have a degree in psychology. Is that fair? I mean,
I'm assuming, Chuck, you don't have a degree in journalism. Is that fair? Is that fair for me to say you don't have a degree in journalism, Chuck? Yet here you are, hosting a show called Meet the Press, where no one actually gets met by the press. They're met by you, who's upset when people accurately call Donald Trump what he is. Now, you've spent the better part of the last year propping him up. You went on his jet and you were afraid to confront him. I saw it. I see how you're afraid to confront him. I see your fear. I see your access journalism. And here's a guy who just happens to be telling the truth on a news show when we're dangerously close to having a maniac, psychotic, misogynistic, racist, xenophobic fascist take control of our goddamn country, and this is where you're going to draw the line, Chuck. Hang on, let's watch it.
Well, we're jumping to conclusions here. I think this is what gets voters a little frustrated with this campaign.
That's what gets voters a little frustrated. When people accurately call psychopaths psychopaths on a news show, that's what gets people frustrated. No, Chuck, voters are more frustrated by armchair journalists than they are by armchair psychologists, okay? What gets voters frustrated is when you prop that guy up for a year. What gets voters frustrated is when you're afraid to push back to him when you're on his jet. We covered it on the show. Or when you're on his helicopter. That's what gets people upset. When you do false equivalencies, that's what gets people upset. When you make it like the problem is people are upset that non-degreed psychiatrists are making diagnoses on news shows. You know how that upsets people.
You know what's also great is, first of all, he criticized him for like campaign strategy. This guy was the chair of the most successful political campaign of my lifetime,
right,
the 2008 Obama campaign. Mm-hmm. So it's like, well, I guess he's choosy with who he's actually hard hitting with. And also something interesting here, as of recent, and this happened recently, as of recent, Donald Trump has not shown any network except for Fox News a lot of love. There was that period of time where he was pretty much exclusive to Fox.
Right.
So I think Chucky's trying to get a little brown nosing in. See, we defended you.
Oh, sure.
That big bad psychopath comment. Come back. Come back.
If there's any doubt in Chuck Todd's mind about Trump's psychological imbalance, all you have to do is check Trump's Twitter feed. Have you read it?
Not just that, but he'll retweet anybody that compliments him. It doesn't matter who
he
they are.
He retweets white supremacists.
Yeah.
He can't help himself.
He doesn't care.
He can't help himself. That guy. The guy who lies to you twice inside of one sentence. That guy, Chuck. That's the guy you're defending right now on behalf of the voters. On behalf of the voters. Chuck Todd doesn't challenge politicians, but he does challenge the academic credentials of someone calling a psychopath a psychopath. That's Chuck Todd. Nice job. Nice job. And when Trump's president, we'll look back to this tape and we'll say, thanks for doing a good job defending Trump and the voters.